Kelly Green's baby on Sunday. How you doing? Oh, I got to do this, man. Before I bring my boy Philly.500 up here, I got to show him here. Okay, I got to show him here. Bring him up, Philly.500. Took this picture of JB at a camp
Yes.
in Brooksville.
Wow. The best, man.
How about this? Wait, here's a Kelly Green for you. My friend Tim Jenkins, who lives in Brooksville, took this to Jerome walking off the field at the vet. And this is in honor, again, of Sunday's Kelly Green, because they're wearing the white pants, too.
Yeah. I remember those days, man. Those were very impactful days of my life, watching Jerome and Reggie. And, yeah, I love it, man. I'm very excited about the Kelly Green this week.
You know what? It's kind of a city like Philly bringing something like that back. Don't you agree, Philly? It means more to a fan base like that than, say, someplace like L.A. or Miami or something like that, because it does invoke those great times.
It does, yeah. It really does, especially, I think, for the older generation, because for me, I'll be honest, I never got over the switch. I never liked it when it first happened. I didn't like the logo. And so to me, I always think of the Eagles. I always think Kelly Green. That's the first thing I think. I don't think what we play in now. So to me, we haven't played in our jerseys, as far as I'm concerned, in 20-something years. It's great, man. I'm very, very excited. And listen, you're right, because think about it. I mean, the Eagles, they broke records. Philly fans broke records with the amount of sales they did for a third jersey. What are you doing? Come here. Sorry, I have this little.
Oh, that's adorable, dog.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at the beautiful eyes. Oh, and I love the fact that she just bit you. That's great. Wow.
Got a bunch of kittens running around. They want to see what I'm doing. So
I'll say this to you. Okay, so how are you compressing the loss to the Jets? No, wait a minute. Before you answer, I said this the other day, and I said it a little bit today. Dude, I don't have any other. I mean, I don't think any lesser of the Eagles losing a game like that. That, again, there were a ton of mistakes made. There were injuries in the ball game. I look at it. I mean, Philly, I don't think anything different. It's just the way they're going about business right now that I kind of question when it comes to their coaching. That's all I'm saying.
Losses happen. You're not going to go 17-0. I get it. I guess what just bothers me about the whole thing is that if you don't throw that interception at the end of the game, you punt the ball, you'll probably win the game. And you're looking at going a whole game up on San Francisco. I felt like it was just a blown opportunity because of the circumstance of the whole day. I mean, losses happen. They do. You're not going to win every game. But that was a chance to go one up on San Francisco, and have that loss for a rainy day when you got Buffalo, Kansas City, Miami all coming. So I just hate the way it went down at the end. That's what bothers me more than anything.
Okay, you've had 24 hours to process the Julio Jones edition. What's your take on it?
Low risk, high, medium reward. You lose nothing by bringing him in. The way I see it, if 60% Julio Jones, because you're not getting Julio Jones at his best.
No,
right?
They didn't sign Julio Jones.
They didn't sign
Julio Jones.
Right. Well, see, that's the funny thing. These guys like Julio Jones, who are future Hall of Famers, their names at the end of their careers can oftentimes go against them. And what I mean by that is, because he's a Hall of Famer and because everybody knows who Julio Jones is, they're going to hold him to that. But he's not that guy anymore. You're right. He's not. But if he's 60% of what he was, is he better than Quez Watkins and Oz? That's the question I have. Because I think 50 to 60% Julio Jones is better than those two receivers. So is it an upgrade at the third wide receiver spot? That's the question. And I would say we'll see. I hope so.
How
But
about this?
I
It's not so much the 60%.
but if he doesn't work out, what do you lose? You didn't
A
give up any
roster
draft
spot.
picks. For who?
Here's
For
where I say,
Quez?
okay, so for the last 5 years, he's not been healthy. And you're
Yeah,
counting on a guy who's not been really productive in 5 years, and you're signing a guy who was Julio Jones in 2018. I mean, I get was really wide receiver a position you were concerned about? They
yeah,
can't even get the ball to. Do you know Devontae's trending down now for 75 catches and 850 yards now, and Goddard's trending down to 690 yards and less than what he did a year ago? Even with missed games, they can't get the ball to those other guys. I didn't know
right.
wideout was a priority.
Well, I thought that it was going to be a situation where they think they need a third wide receiver. Once Quez Watkins went on the IR, I thought they would. Now, what you're saying is a whole different issue, really, because they still needed a third wide receiver, even if those guys were producing. You still need to get some
You're not
production.
happy with the guy from Atlanta?
No, no, I haven't seen anything that says, "Oh yeah, he's great." He's fine, he's perfect. No, I haven't. Plus, Quez Watkins is on the IR. Who's your fourth receiver? So it's like, what? Covey? You're going to put Covey in at receiver? They needed one, but you were not wrong in that they do need to get more production out of those guys. But I will say this: I love Devontae Smith. I'm his biggest fan, but you got to catch the ball.
Yep.
You got to catch the ball over the middle. He catches that ball over the middle. He might run for another 10, 15 yards. So it's like, you can't cry if you're dropping the ball. Catch the ball.
Brian Johnson, you know what? When I went back and watched the 22, and I say this to you, one of the reasons why I think this guy's struggling, sometimes I say this either on Twitter or over on the show here all the time. I say this, that Jalen Hurts is a one-read quarterback. I don't believe that anymore. You know what I believe? That Brian Johnson's a one-target coordinator. And here's what I'm saying here is that these quality targets that you look at, and if you're a fan and you see 11 targets for Devontae, or you see 8 targets or 9 targets for Goddard, and then you see the difference in quality of targets for AJ and how he's so wide open, and the majority of the time you're throwing to Devontae towards the sideline or in double coverage or Goddard. These guys are being used more as decoys. And where I got this, Philly, was when I tuned on and turned on the Dolphins and Mike McDaniel and how he gets guys open. Every pass route is to get every wideout open. Our guys, it just looks like Brian Johnson is really putting more of the formula for quality routes towards AJ. And that's why the numbers have gone up since game 2. Don't you agree? Since game 2 in that conversation, Devontae, and I agree with you on the drops, and Goddard have become less a part of the passing game. And they've focused more on one guy and getting him open than the other two guys since day 2. Am I wrong?
It sure looks like that. It really, really does. It sure does. Except for that Rams game where Goddard had a big game. I mean, I would say even some of the routes that Devontae Smith is catching balls are 2-yard routes. Why is he running 2-yard routes? It just makes no sense to me. I think they threw a couple balls that was like a 1-yard and 2-yard gain. I would never have Devontae Smith running those short of routes. So there may be a lot of truth to it. I think there's definitely something to it, because it seemed like after that conversation on the sideline, it was like Devontae hasn't had a big game. First 2 weeks, he was absolutely fantastic, and he's kind of faded off a little bit. So I definitely think that there might be something to it.
How about this? In the last, let's see, 7 ball games, Jalen Hurts has 9 turnovers counting the Super Bowl. What do you make of that?
I think it has to do with the coordinator not feeling comfortable, probably what he's doing, and if you're trying to force things into certain guys, sometimes that can create situations where you're going to get turnovers. And I also think that last week, two of those interceptions were like, I can't put on Jalen Hurts. The last one definitely was his, and it was horrendous. But two of those, I can tell you right off the bat, in that game, Jets game, we're not on him. But I think it has to do with him, and maybe it has to do with him trying to force it to certain players, or always trying to make the big plays instead of taking what they're giving you.
When you say that they're not his fault, you're right, but it's the offense's fault. And I'm going to throw you why.
Absolutely.
I'm going to put it out here. Why to you? Well, here, I think Hurts has to take. They're not going to get any better coordinating wise as the season goes on. The only person that can turn Philly. Well, wait a minute. There's a saving grace here. The only guy that can really make this thing better is Hurts, and I'll tell you why. I think he's got to take more ownership of what's going on out there and the play calling and the situational play calling, and being more of a leader and denying plays and having more equity in that, because that guy's too inconsistent. And I'll give you an example. So you're looking at the game there against the Jets, and all of a sudden you got the lead, and it's 1:34 left in the ball game. The Jets have no timeout. The 32nd worst offense in passing has to go with no timeouts, 45 yards if you punt the ball, to try to kick a field goal. Is there anybody on the planet that thinks Zach Wilson, who's going to lead an offense down the field to kick a game-winning field goal against the Eagles? Absolutely not. I'd rather take that chance. But what do? They do this. Let's throw an out pattern with the lead, and the guy jumps the route. They knew it. And get this, even Robert Saleh told that guy Tony Adams goes, the coach has said he's going to stare him down, jump the route. That's exactly what happened. Why doesn't Hurts go like this? We're not running that play.
He needs to do what the old Buddy Ryan did, right? Buddy Ryan punched his offensive coordinator right in the face on the sideline. We need a little of that. Yeah, I agree. That was such a stupid play. First of all, you don't even need to throw that ball. You just could take the clock off, run the ball, or at worst, you could have rolled Hurts out and said, listen, if there's something there, you can throw it, make the throw. Otherwise, run the ball, go down, just stay in bounds. That's all they had to do, and the game is probably over. So I don't even understand why you would keep him in the pocket like that. I don't even understand that play call on third down. I have some really serious problems with some of the things the offensive coordinator has done. There's no question about it.
How do you stop Tua in this Dolphin offense this weekend?
There's only one way I think you can stop him. You have to get to Tua. You have to chop the head off of the snake. If Tua has time to throw it, Tyreek Hill will kill you. They will kill you. The Eagles love to play 8-9 yards off. What are they going to play? 15 yards off Tyreek Hill this week? So I think the only way is you have to dominate at the line of scrimmage. You have to get pressure on him. You have to hit him early. I think you need to blitz. I think you need to take chances. And I think, if you can do that and you can dominate at the line of scrimmage, also you have to make your offense a run-first offense this week. I think you need to eat up clock. I think you need to have long, sustained drives and keep their offense off the field. I think if they can do those two things, they can win this game.
You have finally officially worn me down on Cowboy Dude. And I'm going to tell you why.
I'm telling you, I tried.
No, I'm going to give you a Missing Parsons, a.k.a. Micah Parsons. That's my new name for Micah Parsons, is Missing Parsons. So he comes out and he goes, what's really crazy is that the amount of criticism that we get compared to what the 49ers and the Eagles get is incredible. And I said,
yeah,
well, when's the last time the 49ers and the Eagles were destroyed in football games? 3 years ago? You're constantly getting destroyed in games. Those teams lose games by a field goal, by injuries, some bad coaching decisions, but nobody's getting killed. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, they're getting murdered in games. And then they're
Yeah.
going, well, how come they're not looking at well, one, because there's more stink on the Cowboys and there's more yeast on that name than the other guys. But on top of that is, hey, dude, when you take all the praise, you got to take all the criticism too when it comes on the flip end of that. That's a delusional, that is a delusional franchise. Philly.500, get this. Even the owner came out for the first time. Have you ever heard Jerry Jones do this? Hey, it was sloppy and it was all over the place. We got to be better. We were undisciplined. You never hear Jerry Jones because I think he thinks there's too much talking coming out of that joint.
Yeah, well, that's what the Cowboys do. I mean, just let's go back to week 2, right? Week 2, they're 2-0, and everybody wanted us to bend the knee. Remember, I remember coming on going, I'm not bending the knee yet. The Dallas ain't nothing. And this is what they always do. This is what they've done for 30 years. They're always better than they think they are. And when they lose, it's because of everybody else's fault. Delusional. You're right. They are the most delusional fan base in the league.
If you have to build a passing offense around either Tua or Jalen Hurts, who are you taking?
Man, you put me on the spot like that. Well, I'll say this. You give me the Miami's coach and their coordinators and their offense, I'll take Jalen Hurts.
Oh, wait a minute now. So you're not a big fan of Nick Sirianni?
I like Nick Sirianni. I don't like the offensive coordinator. I don't like what I've seen from the offensive coordinator. You have a team like Miami, they find a way to use Devin A-Chain right away before he got hurt, right? This rookie comes in, he's tearing up. You get a guy like DeAndre Swift, you take him out for 2-3 drives at a time. It just makes no sense to me how they do some things. And if you look at the offense that Miami runs and the way those guys are getting open, I believe if you put those guys with this Eagles team, I think Jalen Hurts would be tearing it up too. I think the problems lie with the coaching staff, especially the offensive coordinator, more so than Jalen Hurts.
So the coach, and you believe that the sputtering of the offense is because of coaching.
Yes. I believe because they're trying to make Jalen Hurts do things that, maybe he didn't do last year. I think they should really go back to a lot of the things that they were doing last year. Why change something that wasn't broke? Why do you take a DeAndre Swift out of the game when he's destroying teams? Why do you take him out for 2-3 series at a time and put Gainwell in there when you're inside the 10? Like, things like that just make no sense to me. I watch this game and I watch some of the things the Eagles do and I go, you just cost yourself that drive. It wasn't the defense, it was the play calling, or it was the personnel that's on the field. I have problems with that.
One of my guys in here who I really like talking to says that Derrick Henry's available.
Yes.
Do you have interest in Derrick Henry?
I do. I think, listen, I think that Derrick
that
Henry,
would end your red zone problems.
That's my main thing. DeAndre Swift between the 20s, put Derrick Henry out there. Rather Derrick Henry on the goal line than Kenneth Gainwell. No Gainwell. That's what I call him. No, yeah, I would be interested. I think the Eagles need to do something like that because I think they move the ball. They move the ball fairly well between the 20s. It's the sputtering in the red zone that really has cost them. That ends with Derrick Henry.
Dude, you could extend Derrick Henry's career. Here's what you would do. You probably have to give a higher pickup because you would want them to pick up the majority of the salary. And you would give them probably a 3 for him. And I would like to give him a 4, but that would mean that you'd have to pick up a lot of the money and you don't have a lot of room with the cap right now. They have it already built into their cap.
Well, how much, the question I would have is how much would you have to pay that cap? Because because the Titans have to pick up at least half of the cap for this year, right?
I would want you to pick more of that.
Yeah. See, if I can
But if you pick up more of the cap, you're gonna have to give more of a quality pickup. Now, if you're gonna take on the money, you give lesser of the pick.
right.
See how that works?
Yeah. But I mean, listen, when you're 5-1 and you have just came off a Super Bowl, right? This is a Super Bowl team. Most teams that lose the Super Bowl struggle. This team's still 5-1. You got your biggest games ahead of you. I think you have a conference where I think there's only 3 real contenders in the NFC: the Eagles, Niners, and Detroit. I think you've got to take a shot. You can't worry about the money and the cap and things like that. You got to go try to win a Super Bowl. So to me, if Derrick Henry, if you can make it work, I think you got to do it. If you can. Now, is it the most pressing need on their roster? No. But if you can find a way to get
pressing.
The red zone is pressing, and maybe that's another reason why they got Julio Jones down there for red zone situations. But I think you got to take a shot. You're 5-1. You're trying to win a Super Bowl here. Do whatever you can to win. We want the players to go out and do all this stuff and play to their ability. Well, I want my GM to pull the trigger when it's the right time. Right now, you're in win now mode, so I say do it.
Absolutely. Philly, tell the folks where they can find you.
Just
so
type
they can
in
watch
Philly.
Fabulous show.
Just type in Philly.500. We'll be talking more about Derrick Henry in today's video. So just type in Philly.500. You can find me there.
Gotcha, brother. Thank you so much for always finding
time.
Thank
you, Sills.
We so appreciate it. Thank you, my friend.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, my friends, do me a favor. We really appreciate it. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.